My name is Shepherd Muchenje, or Bryson Keys, as people know me in the industry. There are very few people who know me in the industry. I grew up in Chitumbisa, here in Unit J, and I went to school I did my primary school at Seke 7 Primary School for the whole 7 years. And then I went to Bradley High School in Madziwa for Form 1 to Form 6, which is where I got to love the music thing and the arts. When I was born in '89, I had a condition they called spina bifida, and it's when there's a growth on the spine which is not necessarily supposed to be there. So nurses told my mom, nganani bundu kumsana. So this got the attention of the doctors, and they started checking, and that's when they diagnosed it to be spina bifida, and it had to be corrected. So when I did my own research on the situation, I found out that it's more like Mubundu Momo. It's a collection of nerves that will be in there, that if it's not corrected whilst the child is still small, if it pops, it could cause a lot of damage for the child. So they had to correct it. So when they did, I think during that process, when they did, a lot of nerves were damaged, especially the ones going to my left leg. They were damaged, and I think my back from that time has never been straight up to this point. Like, it was always, I've never been able to stand up straight from birth until now. I've never been able to stand up straight. I think it was because of that situation that they had to fix. So because of that, I never had much power in my left leg. So I always had to walk with a limp, and I always had to drag it around every time when I walk. So growing up, it wasn't that much difficult. Growing up, I started walking when I was four years old, though, because when I was still a toddler, walking was difficult. So I started actually walking on my own when I was 4 years old. And going to school, I never attended a school for disabled children. I went to normal schools. Other people were telling my mom, you should take your child to Gyros Jiri to get special treatment and stuff. But she sent me to normal schools at Seke 7. It was a normal school. I got to interact with kids, with general kids actually, and fortunately or unfortunately, there's no special treatment. So you get to go through all the motions, and sometimes you meet people who are not so fond of your situation, and one or two people would be too sympathetic. It will make you feel uncomfortable. But generally, it was okay. When I went to Bradley High, it never hindered me to do much of the things that I wanted to do. I've never been a sporty guy, so I never attempted much sports when I was in school. I played a little volleyball in primary school when I was in grade 7, and I even went for competitions, but we never went far. And when I went to high school, I tried to pick up that volleyball thing, but in 2006, when you were Form 1 in high school, like you had to play with Form 4s who looked like they were 27 years old at that time. The Form 4s and I was like very, very short. So I had to abandon my dreams for pursuing volleyball in high school. But then when I was in Form 2, Form 3, I went into debate and public speaking, and that sort of became my thing in high school. And yeah, I think the highest I went with debate and public speaking was when I was in lower 6, when I went back to Bradley in lower 6, and I won at the district level, and then we went to provincial level, and that's when I lost because my voice was too low for the adjudicators to hear my speech. So that's how I lost, but I had a pretty good speech. And that year, I remember Bradley went all the way to the nationals at Prince Edward High School, and that became my sport, rather, debate and public speaking. And after high school, it never hindered me much, because I remember sometimes when I was going to church, we had a satellite church. In the main church was in St. Mary's, and the assembly that I would go to was in Unit M. But sometimes we would actually walk as youth, and it was even if we had money to take compis, we actually walk from Unit M to St. Mary's and back, like on the same day. And at that time, it never gave me much problems because I think I was still small, and it never hindered me much. But in 2016, when the back pain started coming, I think it was because I was getting bigger, and my torso was getting heavier. So when the arcing forward that had happened when the spina bifida was corrected, it became an issue for my back to carry my upper body, and I think that's where the pain was coming from. So when I started experiencing the pain in 2016, because I have never been in hospital much for any sickness since the stay in hospital I had when I was a kid, when I was a baby. So I've never been sick. I never get sick. So when I started feeling the pains, I was just like, nah, it is something that's gonna go at some point. It's going to stop. So I ignored it. The whole of 2016, I ignored it. I just kind of limited my movements so that I wouldn't walk much enough to feel the pain, because I would feel the pain after walking a certain distance. So in 2017, that's when it started getting serious, because in December 2016, that's when I started feeling my leg, because from birth until then, I could move and I could walk and I could bend it. But from December 2016, January 2017, I started feeling that it was getting stiff at some point. Like when walking, it would suddenly get stiff and I couldn't bend it and I couldn't do anything. And the back pains were getting worse. And then as 2017 went by, I started feeling like there was like there was a vein or something, or a muscle that was being pulled from the back of the knee. And stepping, because when you're walking, when you step down, the muscles of the leg have to support the leg so you can stay standing. So those muscles began to slowly fail, because I could only step on the ground with my left leg for something like 5 seconds, and after 5 seconds start feeling weak, like I just walked a mile. So that got more worse and more worse, and I was still ignoring it because I thought it was something minor, something that would end. And at one point I thought it was high cholesterol, and I had a clogged blood vein or somewhere, so there was not enough blood going to the leg. So I went and got my sugar checked, and I went to, there's this magnetic scanning thing that they do at, it should be Greenwood or something. Yeah, and I went there, and they did that magnetic scanning, and they said, no, your cholesterol is okay, everything is okay. So I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. So after that, I went to the hospital for the first time. I think it was in July. I went to the hospital the first time. It was at the Red Cross hospital at Copacabana, and the doctor there told me that, no, your issue is, it involves, you need to see a neurosurgeon. So he said you should go to Paris and book to see a neurosurgeon. So I went there that same day, and I booked to see a neurosurgeon. At that time, I could walk on my own without any crutches, even though it was painful, but I could walk on my own without crutches. So I went and booked for the appointment with the neurosurgeon, and they gave me a date. When I went back on the date, I had my own perceptions of the situation, but they told me you need to get an X-ray, because this could be as a result of your back being so bent that the backbone is putting pressure on the spine, on the spinal cord, and causing information that is supposed to go to the leg to not get there. So the leg itself is fine, but there's no information going there to make it function the way it's supposed to be functioning. So they told me that, and it confused me, because it involved having another back operation, and for me that was scary, because I thought, this could leave me in a wheelchair, because for me there's so much that I feel I want to achieve, and I just cannot do that in a wheelchair, because I feel that I have a lot to offer, but I won't be able to do that in a wheelchair. So having to go through that process that could possibly leave me in a wheelchair would really kill all my dreams and everything that I was aspiring to do. So at that time, they told me to get an X-ray and then come back and see them. So at that time there was no money to get an X-ray. So I went home, I came back home, and basically I started looking for other options, like to fix the situation. So I stopped going to Paris, and I started going to Chitumbiza Hospital, because I heard there was an orthopedic surgeon at Chitumbiza Hospital. So I went and booked to see the orthopedic surgeon at Chitumbiza Hospital, and they told me that she just looked at the report that I had been written by the guys from Paris, and then said, no, you have to follow this, because I cannot help you without an X-ray. You have to go and get an X-ray, then we determine what the situation is and how it can be fixed. So that's when I got the x-ray, and they then told me that no, it's scoliosis. You have to go see a certain Dr. Mandizidza at Paris, because he's a neurosurgeon. You have to see Dr. Mandizidza. So I went there and booked again to see Dr. Mandizidza. And when I went to see Dr. Mandizidza, he was not there. They said he was actually out of the country at that time. So I looked for the next best option, and I went back to the doctor who had done the surgery on me when I was 5 months old, Dr. Makarao. Then Dr. Makarao did his assessments and stuff, and then he told me, no, this is scoliosis. It can be fixed, and it's a procedure that is not very dangerous to fix or to do, but he himself could not do it. So he referred me to another doctor. But then the doctor I was referred to was actually out of the country at that time again, and he was said to be learning more on the situation. So it kind of felt like a gamble, rather, because I don't know when he will be back or if he can really do it. So it's a delicate procedure to be handled by a first-time surgeon. I don't know. So we had to look for the next best option, and going on the internet, the only place where we could find with professional scoliosis surgeons was in India. So we got connected to agents there, and they told us, and they sent me emails detailing how it's going to be, how they can do it, and the time they need to do it. I found an agent, I found a website on the internet, because if you just search scoliosis surgery on the internet, it will show you that website in India where they have agents that can facilitate for international patients to access this service within Indian hospitals. So I sent an email to them highlighting my situation, and they sent me an email back, and within that email they had a WhatsApp number. So I went for the easier way, and I started talking to the agent on WhatsApp, and he asked me to send him my details. So I sent him my doctor's reports, my x-rays, and the pictures of the bend in my back, and he began to send those details to scoliosis doctors in hospitals around India. And when he got reports back from those doctors, he emailed me those reports, and they detailed the costs and everything. But the one that kind of stuck out was from Artemis Agrim Neurological Institute in India. That's the one that stuck out, because it highlighted something that I had not seen, or I had not foreseen, because they said that they would need 13,000 for the scoliosis surgery itself. This 13,000 would cover this, because I would be staying in the hospital for 7 days from arrival to after the surgery. I would have to stay in the hospital for 7 days, and then they would also need an additional 4,000 for an additional surgery, which will be done to free the spine from the places where it had been pressured. Because they said it's one thing to to correct the bending of the spine, but it's another thing to free the spine from where it's stuck to the backbone, to enable for free transmission of information from the brain to the organs and stuff. So this assessment, I had not received it from all the other hospitals. So for me, it was an indication that the surgeon had actually looked at my x-rays and had actually seen the situation that was there. So they said 13,000 for the scoliosis correction, an additional 4,000 for that procedure to free the spine, and then there would be need for AFA, which is pegged at like 1.4, and there's also need for visas, which are pegged at $83. And then I'd have to have someone to accompany me there to assist me for the post-hospital stay, because I have to stay in the hospital for 7 days, but after those 7 days I have to stay in India for about 20 days for post-surgery assessments. So I would have to have someone to go with me to assist me in that post-hospital stay in India, going to and from the hospital. And the accommodation for the post-hospital stay, they pegged it at $1,000 to cater for the accommodation, to cater for food and transport to and from the hospital for assessments. The total cost for everything would amount to $21,600 US, because the airfare for me and the person who would have to accompany me would amount to $3,000 US, and it's a return ticket going to and from, including the visas also in that $3,000. In 2016, that's when we started doing shows with Shaki, my little brother, who's a hip-hop artist. And when we started doing shows with Shaki, we put together a band with some of the guys I used to work with before, and we started doing shows with Shaki. The first show actually was on the 25th of June 2016 when Shaki launched his first album. And from then on, we just started doing more shows. We did Shoko Festival in 2016, and for me, that was like the best show that I've ever performed at, because the performance was just lit, and the stage, Shoko Festival stage, always has the best sound and everything, and it was just amazing for me too, because we actually performed. We were one of the last 3 acts at the main stage at Shoko Festival 2016. We performed before Amara Brown and Ja Praiser, and it was amazing. And from then on, though, I was having to deal with the back pains, because they were not serious, but they were there. I think people should always take note of the development of their children in any case, because for me, I begin to look back and I think if they had noticed that from after the operation that was done when I was 5 months old, if they had noticed that my back wasn't straight, and if they had actually thought of fixing that before going forward with anything, I could have grown up in a very different way. There are some things that people we tend to ignore because we think things have gotten better, so we tend to develop a mindset to say, no, this is the best we can do, so let's leave it at that. But I feel like if back then they had noticed that and they had seen the need to make things proper, it wouldn't have later on caused the situation that I'm in now. So I think it's important for parents, especially parents with disabled children. It's always good to investigate. It's always good to look it up and see, like, that would be the situation there. But most of the situations that these children find themselves in, or they are born into, most of them can be fixed and can be corrected. But it takes the parent or the guardian at that time to actually look into things and actually make sure that, is this the best we can do? And if it is, then it's fine. But if there's a way to make things better, it's always wise to do that earlier, so that things can be fixed quick. Because if it is left like that, it will definitely cause more problems in the future, as it is evidently done for me. Because now it's now a major operation being needed to be done. But if it was back then, when I was still small, it would have been easier to do. And back then the situation in the country was way better in 89 or in 1990, I think. So it's always wise for parents to look into the situations their children are in, and actually make sure that what they have, is it the best they can do? Is it the best that can be done? Or there's more that can be done to make things right?
For these and other stories, visit our website www.263chat.com. Follow us on Twitter @263chat and like our Facebook page 263chat.